let's just talk about how to recognize a trial. I really believe that trials and tribulations are so important because they're very similar when we go through them. This is really important that we grasp this tonight. Because if you and I can learn to detect the difference between a trial and a tribulation, it's going to save you and I a world of heartache. And it will benefit us greatly because we're going to experience greater blessings on the other side. There is a huge, huge difference between going through a trial and going through a tribulation. Now, in the Old Testament, for me, one of the greatest trials that anybody ever endured is found in Genesis, and it's the story of Joseph. Now, Joseph was this awesome young man, and his father loved him, and he had brothers, and his brothers did not like him at all. But Joseph was blessed with great gifts. He could interpret dreams, and God would give him awesome visions, and he just, at a young age, he had this awesome relationship with God. And his father knew that there was something special about him, and it gave him a coat of many colors, and his brothers despised him. And so they came up with the plot. Let's kill this guy and eliminate him once and for all. And so they end up taking him and throwing him into a pit. And at the last moment, one of the brothers steps in and says, listen, instead of killing him and having his blood on our hands, why don't we'll just sell him into slavery? Then we can get rid of him and we can make the money. See, he was an entrepreneur, an evil entrepreneur. But that's what they did. They sold him into slavery. So here's Joseph, who once was this awesome young man with all of this upside and potential, who was loved by his father, and now he finds himself being sold into slavery. And once he's sold into slavery, he gets to where he's going, to Egypt, and ultimately he ends up finding himself in a home of this great leader, and he's accused of having a terrible relationship with this man's wife, and he's falsely accused, and then he's thrown into prison. Now he's in prison. I just want to think about these things. You're a young person, you're loving life, you're enjoying your relationship with God. Next thing you know, you're taken captive, you're thrown into a pit, you're dragged out, you're sold into slavery, you journey, you get there, you're falsely accused of a crime you didn't commit, you're thrown into prison, and you're there for years. Sounds like a trial. One that you and I will probably, most of us will never experience something like that. But yet what's awesome is that in Genesis, and this is the key, because Genesis 39:2 says this, and you'll find this repeated throughout this story, the Lord was with Joseph. And I have asked myself more than once reading this story, how did Joseph know that God was really with him going through these times? Now listen, there are times when you and I will go through a down season of life. We'll get 2 months in and we're like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. This is too much for me. Come on, tell me that's not true. There are times that we'll go through a down season of life. We'll get 2 months in and we're already ready to throw in the towel. We're talking years, slavery, captivity, inside a prison. And yet it says, and the Lord was with Joseph. How did Joseph know? You know how he knew that the Lord was with him? Because he spent time with him. How else would you know? He knew that God was with him because he spent time with him. Not once in the story of Joseph will you ever find that Joseph ever one time that he ever doubted God's authority over his life. Not one time is it recorded in Scripture.